Education industry. I'm your host, Ben Cross, and I'm here with my friend, Joleen Lauffer, Executive Vice President of Ayers here at headquarters. How's it going, Joleen?
Going great. Welcome to Pittsburgh, sunny Pittsburgh today.
We are going to do something super ambitious. We are going to give you a tour of a 2-story relocation company. We're feeling a little wild and crazy and aspirational today. We're so excited to be back together, kind of in person and getting to see one another. Joleen, thank you for having us today.
Thank you for coming. We're excited to host you. It's nice to have people back in the office.
Isn't it amazing? And your office is phenomenal. So I can't wait to give people a glimpse inside. Also, hit that like button right now. Throw it in the comments. Let us know who you are, where you are. Give your company a shout out. We're going to try to make this work. If you have questions, throw them in there. Stacy, super producer Stacy in the back there. Keep those questions coming because we're going to be walking and talking. And then we're going to get into a conversation up in the boardroom around technology and things of that nature. So, shall we get after it? You want to go?
Let's do it. Come on in.
Let's do it. All right, here we go. Come on, everybody. See how this goes. Here we go. All right. We're already tripping the security. I tell you what, this place has great security. Obviously, that's part of what y'all do. So take us for a tour here.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on in. Again, we're in our Pittsburgh headquarters location. The first spot we're going to visit back behind us here is our Peoplex Department. So at Ayers, Peoplex stands for People Experience. So this is our human resources function, everyone's most important asset. So come on in, I'll tell you a little bit about them.
I'm always fascinated by people in the people business and how they do their own people operations. So let's go check it out. We got Fran over here. Shout out to Fran. Shout out to Kathy, the people behind the scenes here making this happen. This is great.
That's right. So our Peoplex team is here. And of course, these are our, taking care of our folks. And never was their role more important, I would say, than during the pandemic, right? Mm-hmm. Because our number one concern was the health and wellness of our team and making sure that we all stayed connected. And, we really encouraged our managers to stay connected with their folks. And I think we were also caught up in thinking about physical wellness. We kind of forgot about mental health. And so we really tried to do a lot around engaging folks, making sure they were staying safe, staying healthy, staying emotionally healthy. And we arranged for some speakers and some things to help people stay connected.
Nobody called me for a speaker, but that's fine. It's cool. I get it. All right, let's go see what else we got going on.
Yeah, come on in. So what the department that we're walking toward now is our finance team. So both the finances of Ayers itself, as well as, as we all know, relocation management companies, part of the service that we deliver to our customers is financial. So as we walk through here, these are kind of our standard functions: accounts payable, accounts receivable. And when you think about what we do, any one relocation that we manage could have anywhere from 20 to 50 invoices associated with it. So we pay lots of invoices and lots of billing passes through these walls. And so our own team managing our Ayers finances sits here. And if we keep moving this way, we're going to move into the group that manages our expense management. And so
no, it's treacherous here, so bear with us here.
And so this team is receiving transferee expense reports, auditing those for accuracy, policy adherence, foreign currency exchange rates, things like that. And then they're coding those for the right.
Okay, I have a question. Here. I see a poster and it's about W-2Cs. What is a W-2C?
Yes, it's a bad word around here. We don't like to say it. We don't like to hear it. And this is kind of no W-2Cs is the mantra of this team behind me. And basically, if something gets messed up on an employee's W-2, then they have to have a correction issued. And so our goal is to have 100% accuracy on every W-2 because, of course, the work that we do, a lot of relocation benefits are taxable. So what we're feeding to their payroll team ends up on their W-2. And so making sure that that's perfectly accurate is critical to our success. And so this is what they live day in and day out.
Yeah, nice. People don't like tax bills. They definitely don't like 2 tax bills, right?
Yes, exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. I always think about supply chain management when it comes to customer service, when it comes to relocation management. And I don't think about the expense side as much. What percentage of the RMC's job would you say is expense related?
I mean, it's a massive part of what we do. It depends on what you're measuring, right? Because I think that when organizations are looking at relocation management companies, they assume that this stuff is going to be perfect and it's going to be right. So I think, though, the reality is that this is hard stuff and these guys work really hard to perfect their process. And so this is, some customers would say, our payroll clients, our payroll contacts would say, well, this is 90% of what you do. 10% of it is just that moving stuff and that real estate
moving's
stuff,
easy.
right?
It's getting the tax stuff right. Yeah.
So it is critical, and this is, as you can see, this is a really big team, and so we have a lot of folks
This
managing.
is a big team. Give an idea. I don't know if you can see, but there's like cubicles. There's a lot of cubicles. So how many folks? I mean, just give me a wild guess on the spot here, Jolene. How many folks do you have in the expense side of the business?
Between somewhere around 80, I would say. Yeah, 80 folks, and that's split between folks who are auditing expense reports, and then the team who's actually doing the payroll reporting and billing to our client. So they're managing that whole financial piece.
And if you have any questions, throw them in there. We are going to sit down and actually have a conversation and answer your questions. So keep them coming. Stacy's going to keep the comments coming as well as we try not to trip over ourselves. Oh, this way.
This way.
Let's go over here. Look at this.
Yeah, Ben, when you asked me to do this interview, I didn't know there would be like athleticism
I know.
involved.
I was like, oh, it'll be super simple. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. Now walk backwards to the entire office and talk to everybody.
I feel like this could be an Olympic event.
It's up there with skateboarding for sure. Go for it.
Thank you. So now we'll head over kind of across the hall here. We're still on our first floor, and we're going to head into our IT department. So we'll give you a quick look into what that looks like and what we have there. And when people think of IT, they think, oh, you're building cool technology, you're building cool software. And while that's true, and our product team is a big part of that, there are also a whole lot of other functions that are critical to our success in this group also. And come with me, I'll show you as we take a look.
Check it out. All right.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to the IT department right now. So the IT department in a lot of organizations are kind of like kept in the closet somewhere, or maybe somewhere else. I mean, they're not really the feature cornerstone of the operation. I've been here once before, so I know IT is a big deal for y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the sayings that I like is, there used to be a line between business and IT, and now IT is the business, right? This is what drives what we do. This is what drives our customer relationships. And a lot of times this is a big differentiator for Ayers, whenever we're competing for business as well. So, but the reality is, keeping the systems running, keeping the lights on is a critical part of any business. And so keeping the systems secure and up and running is a big part of this team.
I feel like IT means a lot more than it used to mean.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you used to be in IT and maybe you did one of three things.
Now, like a help desk or something like that.
Yes.
Like you literally kept the physical lights on. But now, I mean, you have information security. And
information security, risk management, and just in the product development lifecycle, there are many roles in terms of a business analyst, designers, user experience experts, and that all happens before you ever get to a developer, right? The person that sits there and writes code. So I think that's what we think of when we think IT is the person who's sitting there with the headphones in writing code. Well, a whole lot happens before and after that. After that gets done, then there's certainly quality assurance and testing, and then user testing where we all get to play around with the system. So
yeah, let's go check
lots
it
of
out.
roles. Come on in.
Right. This is so cool. I'm so excited that they're letting me in here like this. I feel very, very privileged here. All right. So where are we now, Joleen?
So this is our IT group. And again, they're kind of split between our product team as well as our IT services team. So these folks are keeping the lights on and keeping us secure and keeping our servers running and everything working. And then over here is where we're maintaining existing products that our customers and internal staff use, as well as developing new stuff.
How big, I mean, this is a big room full of cubes. I mean, y'all can't really tell right now, but it goes all the way down there. Here, let's give them just an idea of the depth. Here it goes all the way down. And this, I know, is just your Pittsburgh office. You have other offices. How many people would you say you have in the IT part of the business?
Yeah, we have, I think, 85 full-time employees and then a handful of folks offshore as well who help us with some of our development functions and testing. So we have, at any given time, we usually have 100-ish people working on our IT products and services. So it's a big group.
Wow, that's a big investment. We'll talk more about that too upstairs. I got some questions for you. Very cool. So
Perfect.
What's next?
All right, let's keep moving.
Let's
We're going to go
go
upstairs.
We got a lot to do.
Yes, we have a lot of ground to cover, so we'll move fast.
Also, if you have questions right now, throw them in the comments. Let us know. We will get to those questions later.
Yeah. Yeah, we should probably take a quick look here. All of our new folks, whenever they come on board with the organization, they come to Pittsburgh for training. This is our training room. You can fit about 100 people in there. Usually our training classes are somewhere around 40 people, and we have them pretty frequently. They've been virtually, of course, for the last year plus. But this is a key part of who we are, right? It's people, especially who don't work in this building, get to come to Pittsburgh and get a feel for the culture and the organization, and then go back out to the regional offices where they work as well.
I've given a presentation in this room before.
It's intimidating.
It's intimidating. It's a great space. You gotta really hold some attention, really bring it, but I advise, bringing cupcakes or other treats always helps.
You know the way to their hearts.
I do.
All right, we'll keep moving. Okay,
All
we're
right.
gonna walk fast now.
All right, let's go. Getting our steps in today. Let's go. Right. This is going to be interesting. I don't think I've ever done an elevator in any of these live tours. So we have an elevator, and that's a nice elevator too.
It's going to be a good test of how much we like each other, and also of our Wi-Fi. So we're gonna see how it goes.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. A lot of natural light in here too.
Yeah, that was part of the reason that we chose this. There we go.
This is great. This is great. I love it. Look at this live TV. Look at this, people. All right. Wonderful. We still on out there? Let us know.
Good.
Check in with us. That's great. I'm getting the thumbs up here.
But it's a little quiet around here. I would say more quiet than usual, and that's because we have actually decided to go with a hybrid environment for the foreseeable future for our team. So because of COVID, because of the risks, and because it was really hard to argue with the results that people were getting while they were working from home, right now everyone has the option to work from 0 to 5 days in the office. So, so if it looks a little quiet, there's not the normal buzz. I wish you were here on a day when, pre-pandemic, when the office was buzzing and lots of energy, but hopefully you're getting the feel for it anyway.
Yeah, awesome. This is great. This is great. Elizabeth Martin says it looks like you guys are going into surgery. It's like an ER visit. This is great. All right.
Okay, come on in. So now we're going to head down this hallway and go into our operations department. So what we're entering is our central regional office. So this is our Pittsburgh team, operations and sales or business development all sit here.
All right, let's check it out. All right, got lots of doors. That's a lot of doors.
Very secure. All of them require a badge.
All right. So what do operations do at RMC?
So these are our teams who are working with the families who are relocating. So they're receiving the new authorizations. They're the ones on the phone, organizing the move, organizing the household goods move, language training, cultural training, temp housing, real estate.
All the verticals,
Yep,
really.
everything. So the operations folks are managing that day in and day out. They have a system that they use, but of course it is a people business. And so they're spending lots of time on the phone with the families that are moving. And this is the area that feels the most quiet to me during these times because usually everybody's on the phone. So
normally it's probably pretty crazy here in a July in the summer. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Very cool.
Not that this summer's been crazy at all.
Yeah, not at all. It's super walk in the park. Hey, I do want to know, is this, real quick question out there, is this the craziest summer ever for you or no? Craziest summer ever or no? Put it in the comments. Just quick straw poll. Craziest summer ever or no? Throw it in there. Stacey Huff saying amazing counselors.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
very
agree.
Cool. Very cool. All right, let's go check it out.
Okay, let's go.
This is so much fun. I'm having a blast doing this. This is challenging, but a lot of fun.
I would have worn different shoes if I knew that this backwards tour was on the agenda, but so far so good.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so where are we now?
Yep, we're kind of in the heart of operations here.
I see a lot of hardware. I see a lot of trophies. I see what looks. I don't know if you can see these over here. We got some very austere, nice little glass kind of trophies.
Yeah.
Then we got some really crazy, best bowler in the world trophies over here. So what's all the hardware mean, Joleen?
Yeah, so we are a competitive culture, but more importantly, we're super customer service focused, and so at the end of every relocation, we're of course surveying the families that we moved. And at the end of the year, anyone who is at our 90% excellence rating or above is in our circle of excellence. So we have like a big dinner. It's a big celebration. And I don't know if you can, they're clear, so it's hard
Who's
to
this?
see.
Is this
but
Megan Knight?
this is
Shout out to
Meg.
Megan
Yeah,
Knight.
this is
All right.
Megan.
Very cool.
So it's pretty cool. Everybody gets their trophies, but then when they come back to the office, they sit them up. So I have to get on my tiptoes, but you can see all the decorated veterans.
There
around
are a
here.
lot. There are a lot of trophies
Cool.
up there.
And then when you're,
It's
I
really
don't
cool.
know if you can see it when you hit 5, you get an even cooler, like different shaped one. So
Oh,
it's pretty
very
cool.
nice.
Yeah,
Very cool.
and it's not easy to achieve. So it's pretty exciting to get invited to that dinner and to be recognized.
Awesome. Very neat. Let's keep going.
Okay, come on. So same group here, also working with the families. We have kind of a team leader environment here. Most team leaders, we try to have about a 7-to-1 ratio, right? So a team leader has a team of 7. They're doing a lot of chair sides.
That sounds
with
like a
them.
pretty good ratio, actually. 7
Yeah.
to 1. I remember my call center days, I had 25 people on my team. So seven person team is
Yeah, you
it's
probably
pretty nice.
didn't have much time to
No,
spend with
it was
each one,
awful,
right?
actually.
So,
How many counselors would you say you have, generally speaking?
that's a good question. We have probably around 250. We're
Wow.
just close to 600 total
Wow.
in staff. So
Would you say that job function makes up the biggest job function in the organization?
yeah, for sure. Especially if you kind of combine all counseling roles, and after that would be the expense management folks that we talked about,
Sure.
auditing the expense reports and kind of doing that data analysis.
Yeah. I see Brandy there. Shout out to Brandy. All right.
Come
So-
on through.
Oh, what is this thing? I'm sorry. What is this right here? This, you don't see this in every office here. What does this thing do right here?
That is a happy birthday arrow. So if it's your birthday, I think your team sneaks that thing onto
Sneaks
the
it.
top
I
of
think
your
it's like
desk.
an
And
enormous
you come in and
sculpture.
it's lit and decorated or saran wrapped or whatever else
That's funny. That's
happens.
hilarious.
But
Awesome.
Yes. We
Very
like
cool.
to celebrate around here. There's no doubt about it. So,
Very cool. Very cool.
which is another thing, that we miss about kind of the remote work, right? Like I think people form meaningful connections when they're together.
Well, I like you're competitive, but you celebrate a lot too. I feel like that's like really important,
Yeah.
Because a competitive environment without celebration is just really difficult.
Yeah, exactly. And
Very cool.
I think it all boils down to the culture. And, again, these are the things that we want to preserve as we're working into this hybrid environment where, maybe we don't get to spend as much face time with one another. And while we've all adjusted to Zoom, it's not exactly
Yeah.
the same, right?
Not exactly.
So,
So where are we now? I think I
Um,
recognize this apparatus right here.
yes, this is the mailboxes, not super exciting. That's our Payday popcorn machine back there. So every payday, we pop popcorn for everyone and hand it out. So again, it's just a good opportunity to get up from your desk, walk away, and come have some popcorn and chat with your friends. So
Nice. So when people smell popcorn, they know they're getting paid.
I know
like
it's
it.
like we have this Pavlovian reaction
Yeah.
to the smell of popcorn. Like,
Yeah.
Payday.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
Come on.
Cool.
All right, I swear we're in the home stretch here.
We're almost there, everybody. Thanks for hanging in here.
We're just walking through here. A couple corporate functions. Our marketing team sits here. These guys crank out proposals day and night. So we also have our team that sits over here who creates the household goods rates for both international and domestic household goods moving, making sure we're working with the right partners at all times, and then rating those and figuring out the correct logistics for all of it also.
Cool.
So yeah, this is what keeps us running. We'll continue this way.
So let's is Jeff here? Is Jeff around?
I think so.
Let's go mess with him a little bit. See if he's around here. There he is. There he is, the hardest working man over here. There he goes. Hey Jeff, what's going on? That's great.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
great. I love it. I love the feng shui there in the office.
Yes, there's a reason that we're not actually going to take the tour into that office. He's a lot of things, but minimalist isn't one of them. So
Nice. Shout out to Chris Roberts, as I just waved.
Well, yes,
Awesome,
we will
awesome.
keep walking. We'll come this way real quick.
Cool.
The group that we're coming up on here to my right is our kind of risk management, information security,
Well, that's cool.
monitoring.
Now you got a lot of,
Everything
speaking
we
of
do.
monitors, you have a lot of monitors. Let's go check some.
Yeah.
This is really neat to me. You don't see a lot of dashboards that look like this, or at least I haven't. So what are
Yeah,
some
I
of
don't
these?
know.
What are
You
some of
could-
these dashboards over here that we're seeing?
Yeah, we have lots
Right
of big monitors on the wall. I mean, their job here is to keep us safe and secure. And so these dashboards are all kind of monitoring risks and threats. You know, the reality is we work with a lot of really high profile clients and they try to hack us every day, as do actual bad actors. And so
So the
therefore, our
actual
job-
clients like test you as well?
Absolutely.
Stress test
Yep.
you?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
all the time.
How
They
do
don't tell
like
us.
That? Like that fun? Yeah. Nice. It's an interesting
They love it.
relationship.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what these do. These are monitoring different threats and risks that are out there to make sure that we're on top of it, and I'll kind of always have that information at hand.
Very cool. Awesome. Love it.
Cool.
All right. What's next? This is quite the tour, Joleen. It's a big office. How
It
many people
is.
sit here?
It's
in
a lot of
Pittsburgh?
space. A couple hundred. Yeah. So right now, you know, we're about, a lot of our folks are doing 2 or 3 days a week and the other 2 or 3 from home. And it works well too, because we have a lot of young parents. And so it's really helping people, I think, to kind of juggle work and life. And they found a lot of good things around working from home remotely. And we don't want to take that away. We want to find this like perfect balance of being in the office and connecting with folks and staying plugged into the company, but also getting to kind of manage your life. So,
Well, I love that you've done that too. And we'll talk a little bit more about it. Should we go in here?
yeah, come on in.
Where are we now?
We're going to finally sit in our boardroom.
Thank goodness. Time to sit down. I don't know. We should have had the pedometer going just now. All right. Let's see. Very cool. Thank you so much to everybody behind the scenes too here at Ayers. Let me see here. We got some space here. Look at this. Look at the production quality. Really top notch over here. Thank you
We
so
don't mess
much.
around at Ayers.
Fran and Kathy, this is great. Thank you so much.
Did I just steal your water?
I think, no, you didn't steal. Mine's empty over here.
Okay, we can get you another one.
Would you do that for me? Okay, that would be lovely. Thank you. Are we good? How's the sound? How's the sound, Stacy? Sounds all right? We'll just project a little bit. I've got a ton of questions, but I know we also have questions probably from the audience. Stacy, why don't you cue those up? If you have questions right now, throw them in the comments. We will get to those, I promise. I'm kind of always obsessed with technology. I remember the first time I heard you speak actually was at I think it was at a Great Lakes, but it was in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
You gave one of the best presentations I've seen in this business. I actually went up to you afterwards and said, can I get your deck? Can I just like the way it was amazing. And you actually shared it with me, which was really cool. But from a technology standpoint, what are your thoughts on the biggest opportunities around technology in the relocation management space right now?
Good question. I think they are limitless. But when I really think about where the biggest impact can be made, I think it's in our kind of corporate customer experience and evolving that kind of single pane of glass approach where we can tie together their HRIS system with the relocation management company, with the tax provider, and with the immigration provider. I think this is the piece that is the most painful, I think, for our corporate clients, and also their ability to manage their own workday within that technology. I think that's where the biggest opportunity exists. But I would also kind of couch that a little saying, I think we all also have to kind of figure out who we want to be when we grow up as it relates to kind of digital transformation versus the human experience of relocation.
That's a great point. So like, what do you mean by that? I mean,
yeah, I think we've all been so focused on the digital transformation. We're also focused on developing technology, self-service, and while that's critical and that is in demand, at the end of the day, we're still in a very people-focused business, and we have to figure out what that right balance is. It's funny, I was just chatting earlier today with one of our moving partners, and Greg Kohlinger, I'll give him a shout out, and he was talking about one of his teammates who really has a high success ratio with lump sum transferees, and he said to her, well, what do you do? Like, what are you doing that you're getting all these bookings? And she said, well, I call them. How novel, I think we've all been really focused on figuring out all this self-service and
that's true. Because with lump sum, our first thing is, hey, let's give them a portal. Let's give them a self-service tool. And just because they're a lump sum or a budgeted move doesn't mean that they shouldn't get the service, or that we're probably doing ourselves a disservice by just giving them a website.
Right. And I think they need both, right? So I think we all have to figure out what is it that they need, and recognizing that not everybody needs the same thing, and making sure that we can deliver on that.
It's only like, do we give them a website because they convert low, or do they convert low because we give them a website?
Yeah, I think it's probably both, but I think it's more the latter.
And so you were talking before about the single pane of glass, which I love that phrase. I've never heard that before. But I love it. And, I come from a service provider standpoint, and so I know that our corporate friends and partners want to have, data within their HRIS system. They want to have visibility. They want real-time answers, so they don't necessarily have to play the telephone game and, call down the chain and they get calls back and they report it back. But from a service provider standpoint, we also want that single pane of glass approach, right? We also want to be in a real-time ecosystem where information is transmitted in real time, because we do so much coordination on our side and so much answering of questions that are, to be honest, somewhat mundane. When's my pickup?
Right.
What's my ETA?
Right.
Stuff like that. When's my delivery date going to be? Really mundane stuff that's sitting in a system on our side. And then we, go in there, figure it out, and then, revert it to you.
Right.
How can we work? I mean, what do you think about that? I don't feel like the supply side gets enough attention.
Yep, agreed. And I think our customers always kind of bark the loudest, right? And so we all have limited technology budgets and resources, and we have to identify and make some decisions around how we're gonna invest that money in those efforts. So I do think we tend to put ourselves last, right, when it comes to our own technology, but there's a real movement, I know we've all heard it, around more integration between partners. And so there's the level of integration that benefits the customer the most, I would say, and that's when sort of RMC, tax partner, and immigration partner come together. But then there's also that piece that benefits us, right, that work together. That might be a little more insulated from a transferee or a corporate client, but where we're exchanging tons of information, we're sending each other those emails and asking for updates. When our systems are integrated, then it makes us all more efficient. And so I think we're kind of at the point where these integrations, these APIs that folks are building are starting to get to the level of partner to partner so that we can better communicate. And again, it's an investment in ourselves versus more of a client-facing investment. And I think that's where a lot of companies struggle, because sometimes you can get so caught into this cycle of building for external facing technology that you really neglect your internal facing technology.
Yeah.
One of the sayings that I like about tech is, I wish technology would rust. I wish software would rust, they say. And that's because, when something rusts, you buy a new one. If your grill gets rusty, you go get a new one, you fix it. You don't just keep using it. Software doesn't do that. It's easy to just keep using it and limping along. And I think that that's where companies can sometimes then find themselves in a situation where they're really behind internally. And so then they have to really hit pause on doing things for clients. And that's a tough cycle to be in.
What a phenomenal concept about software rusting, because you can visibly see the obsolescence in a grill when it's rusty, but you can't see the obsolescence in software. So then why replace it? It's working just fine.
Exactly.
And I think we've all worked at companies where you look around and you're like, this is not the best, right? And I know from an employee standpoint, when I've worked at those companies, how it's made me feel. When there's a lack of investment or disinvestment in technology, you feel like, well, is my time not valuable, right? When you find yourself doing rote and mundane tasks in a company, you start to wonder, you start to lose engagement, frankly.
Well, and look at our standard. Our user experience standard is Apple, and all of the technologies that we work with day in and day out. So these sleek, rich user experiences are what we expect. And then nobody wants to go to work and work with something that's quite the opposite, right? That feels clunky and uncomfortable, and like you said, makes you feel like you're not special.
Yeah, and and I think going back to now the customer facing or employee facing or transferee facing side of tech, I think they're saying the same thing to us, right? By their lack of adoption in the technology that we put out there. Because we have to be honest with ourselves. We are competing with Google and Apple and Amazon and Netflix when it comes to UX, right? User experience. And if we're realistic, we're not competing with, the company down, 3 booths down at ERSA. We're competing with Google, right? And I mean, I think when you look at, lump sum and where the market's kind of gone with that, and, under the guise kind of employee choice and everything, I think what employees are telling us is that your software, your experience is not there. It's easier to Google a mover.
Right. If they're not using it, then it's not compelling enough to bring me back to manage my relocation within it, whether I'm a lump sum transferee or a full service transfer. It has to add value, right? Otherwise, why are we building it? And I think that also boils down to, companies have to make hard decisions. And if you're building software or creating technology so you can check a box, it's probably not going to do the trick.
Yeah, Viva says, great content, Joleen. Stay strong to your vision. Keep pushing the bar high and transforming the industry.
Thanks, Viva.
Can't wait to see Viva at IM. Robert, yes, if service providers find themselves behind in tech or programs with all the industry disruptions out there, it may be too late. Is it too late?
Yeah, that's a good question. And there are a lot of disruptors out there. And I think it's been really good for our industry. No, I don't think it's ever too late, right? But everybody has to kind of decide what they want to be and what their technology strategy is, because none of us can be all things to all people. So you do have to figure that out.
When you say technology strategy, what does that mean for companies out there? Because we have a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders out there that watch the show. What does that mean when you talk about technology strategy?
Yeah, I think when it comes to strategy, I think of it kind of in a couple buckets. One is kind of your brand, your identity. What's your brand going to be? Are you the kind of high touch, low tech organization? And that sounds bad, and I don't mean it that way, because I think there's a place for that in our industry, and there are people who will never use any technology that you put in front of them. It's just reality, and so there are customers too. So we have to have that solution. But then the other piece of that is, you also have to think about what your budget is, right? What do you have to spend? Are you kind of a bootstrapper organization where you can reinvest what you're making as an organization? Or if there's external funding, then maybe you have some more options as well. But I always like, Gartner has this thing, their run, grow, transform kind of model. And so there are different percentages out there, but Gartner says on average, companies spend 65% of their technology budget on running the business, right? Keep the lights on, keep the servers up, make sure everything's working, make sure we're secure. Somewhere around 20% on growing, so your existing customers, improving the products that you offer to them, improving the services and growing that market, and then transform as new market segments, new customer segments. So for us in relocation, maybe transform would be, hey, how do we capitalize on all these people who are moving out of big cities and they're going to buy someplace with a big yard in the country because lockdown taught them that city life isn't for us anymore. So those are examples of how a company can start to think about what their strategy is, because if you're not putting anything into grow and you're not putting anything into transform, then you're going to find yourself behind.
Wow, when you put it like that, 60% is basically just keeping the lights on, 20% is in growing, and 20% is in transforming. That's a lot. I mean, I've heard, 10% of your business your budget should be in R&D, and that's a significant investment. And when we went back there, we just kind of looked through that big room with all the IT folks in it. You said you have about 100 folks, in there, and that's a significant portion of your organization, and a lot of money and a lot of folks. Why make that level of investment? I'm going to play devil's advocate. Is the ROI there?
Yeah, I think so. Our brand, so our strategy, our identity is we want to be the market leader. And so that means investing. And I keep talking about technology sayings that I like, but one of the other ones is companies usually get the technology they deserve. And even though that sounds a little snarky, I don't mean it that way.
Well, maybe a little bit, I mean.
But look, if you believe in it and you invest in it and you are thoughtful and careful about the decisions that you make and what you do, then the outcomes are infinitely better than, hey, we're going to build this so we can check a box, even though we don't really believe that, virtual house of goods move surveys are ever going to be a thing. That
was 5 years ago, and now look at us now. It's the only way to do,
right.
100% of them are that
And what
way.
would have happened to us in the last 18 months without virtual house of goods move surveys? So, but again, I'm not saying that has to be everyone's strategy, but I think you have to think about what your brand is and how you want to present yourself in the market. And that's going to indicate kind of what clients you have a shot at partnering with and serving. So
now's your opportunity to ask questions. You've heard some thoughts from Joleen. We got some questions here. Thank you, Stacy, for queuing these up. Keep those coming in the comments. Jamie Massler says, how do you keep a consistent product with so many offices, domestic and internationally?
Yeah, I think keeping consistency is critical, and it starts really with day one, right? So we took a peek into that training room. There's a reason we bring everybody here, right? We have the same message, we have the same training, we have the same kind of mentorship program that every employee goes through. And so that's a key part of it. But we have a lot of corporate functions that are there. Our internal customers are our own employees, and that's kind of to serve the regions and to make sure that they have all of the tools that they need. They work in the same tools, of course, globally, and they have the same processes. And so we also are an ISO organization. So in my mind, that kind of just means you do what you say you're going to do. And so that does help us to ensure some consistency also. But it's a big part of kind of our leadership team's role, right? We have to be out there. We have to be walking the walk and having a consistent message as we visit those offices. And we have great leaders in every offices who also, come together really frequently to carry that message forward. And I think, it all boils down to culture for me more than it comes down to, consistent process, because where your culture is consistent, the process, I think, will follow.
And where are your offices?
We are Pittsburgh, Danbury, Connecticut, Houston, Dallas, Huntington Beach, California, Columbia City, Indiana, London, Hong Kong, Singapore, and then a few remote folks in other locations.
Wow, cool. It's a lot to keep your arms around. Let's see. Robert Brizuela says the competition for talent is surely there and greatly impacts an RMC's ability to make the best hires. What is Ayers doing to attract top tech, strategy, and client experience candidates?
Yeah, great question.
All these questions.
Recruiting and retention is a critical part of our strategic plan. It is we are all involved in that. We're kind of lucky here in Pittsburgh because we have Carnegie Mellon right here. I went back to school and did a little certificate program there. So we have a lot of technology talent in Pittsburgh, and that's where most of our tech folks sit. So we have this really cool candidate pool. And in fact, it has also attracted some good competition for that talent for us too. Things like Google and Uber are also.
Right, they're doing their self-driving cars here too.
Yeah, they put a pause on it, but yes, we saw all the. We used to always see the cars with the big spinning, wheel on the top that were self-driving. They always had a driver sitting there, but anyway. So yeah, we are very much focused on that. We look at the different recruiting sources that we use. We've partnered with a lot of schools. And we also have a recruiting team who looks for experienced talent as well as inexperienced talent. So we like to have a good mix of that.
Yeah, what's that mix versus like hiring folks who are like in the biz already, and then hiring, younger people maybe who don't have the experience and then training them up?
Yeah, I think we can win in both, and we do win in both. In a lot of ways, we do things differently. Our culture is a little different. So sometimes it's a hard adjustment for people who may have worked in some other area of the industry, or just figuring out kind of our way of doing things, our culture. Sometimes people come in here and they're like, you guys say yes way too often. So I think that can be a challenge, but we need experience, right? We need experienced people, and we need that industry knowledge, and we need people to come in and say, here's what I've seen work at other places. That's really valuable knowledge. We know that we don't know it all, and that there are better ways to do things. And so we always want to have that environment where people can say, I think there's a better way to do this. But along the same lines, I think when we hire new talent, we have a really nice environment of our team leaders and managers who are really good at kind of, this sounds weird, but raising them our way, right? Like kind of bringing people in. We are very much a family organization, and kind of helping them not only to navigate kind of the ins and outs of learning this industry, but also of being a business professional and emotional intelligence and all the things that come with becoming a professional.
So this is also the Robert Brizuela sounds like your budgets may need adjusting to align with the post-COVID business environment. I think that's counsel to the folks watching as well. I gotta say, I've also noticed some of the marketing y'all have done. It's 40th anniversary of Ayers.
Yes.
That's a pretty big milestone year for you.
Yep, 40 years.
Do you take full credit or share it all?
Just maybe like 80, 90%. Yeah. The last 24 years were certainly the best. But
24 years at one organization?
Yes, I've been here 24 years.
What's that like? So, I mean, that's incredible. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah,
about a tenure.
It's pretty cool. And it's pretty cool to think of what this organization was, back then, and how much we've changed. We're the same in so many ways, but in some ways we're unrecognizable in terms of, the work that we do and the size and the people.
Biggest change in 24 years. Biggest change. What's the biggest change?
I think our general kind of sophistication, our roots were in international household goods forwarding.
Right.
So we were just kind of, starting to come out of that at that time. And so today, our domestic business outweighs in terms of volume our international business. So that was a really big shift as we continued to grow because the domestic grew even faster, as we've grown over the years. So that's a big change. But at the end of the day, I just got to spend some time with our founder, Jim Putt, in Florida a couple months ago. And it's always like really inspirational to get to spend time with him. And everything he says is always so insightful. And we got to kind of interview him for our 40th anniversary. And all I could think of, I was the cameraman on that one, by the way.
Were you?
Yeah.
You really come
I
up
can
quite
go.
a bit.
I can go behind the camera.
I think
Maybe
honestly,
better.
I saw those videos, and I think you should have been in front of the camera. To be honest.
But it hasn't changed. When he talks about why he started the company, what was important to him when he started the company, why he made the decisions that he made, it's all the same. And I think that our leaders have done a good job of making sure that that message kind of stays true.
Yeah. So if an RMC has been around 40 years, seen a lot of change in the industry, obviously a lot of change in the organization, grown tremendously, business mix has changed, new verticals, offices all over the place. If RMCs are going to be around in 40 years, what do you think they're going to need to do to be relevant?
Yeah, that's a great question.
We didn't prep this question. It's totally unfair, but just curious.
I do think that finding that right mix of the human experience with technology is really important because I think I'm worried that our pendulum is swinging too far on technology.
We're too tech crazy.
Well, we're not. I don't think we have too much tech because I still think we have a long way to go.
We need a lot more of it.
We need it.
Too much focus still.
But we need to not forget that this is a people experience and these are people's lives and families that we're moving. And what's the first thing that happens when you have a customer experience that goes sideways? Forget relocation. What do you want? You want somebody on the phone.
I need someone on the phone right now to give me
Yes.
real answers, and they need to call me back when it's fixed. And I'm going to call them every hour until I get a resolution.
Yeah, and you don't want a different person every time. You want one person who cares about you and who is genuine. And so I think we have to make sure that we maintain that right mix, right? And that's the value that we bring to organizations. Because if we stop bringing value to those organizations, then they don't need us, right? They if technology can do as good a job, but I think we need both. I really think that the customer experience needs to stay at the forefront.
What is that like? What does that look like? Give me an example of how we grow technologically and yet remain human-centered.
Yeah, I think there are pieces of this process that are better managed with technology, but there are pieces that are always going to be better managed by a human. So sure, you want to schedule a conversation, you want to schedule your household goods move survey. Yeah, maybe that's best done. Hey, here's a link. Give us some times that work for you. That's user friendly. But hey, we need to talk through what's important to you. What are the things that you're worried about for your move? What's the kid's schedule with school so that we can plan, when we're listing this home, all those kinds of conversations. I think that those can be lost when we're giving someone a purely self-service tool to try to manage this process on their own. And so I think making sure that we find that right balance is going to be critical. It is today, but it's going to continue to be critical because we are expected to bring a lot of value to this process. And the reality is these people are, moving is the third most stressful life event or something in a person's life. So we're the ones managing it. And so they need to feel that stress got passed to us because we are the ones taking it on. And so if there isn't a human involved, I think that's a little tough.
Let's see here. We've got some really great comments coming in. Keep the questions coming in here. We got some serious questions.
I love all the Steelers comments.
We got some funny questions. People asking, you see Heinz Field from here?
We will. There is a good Pittsburgh shot back there, but we'll make sure Ben gets a terrible towel before he leaves.
All right. Liz Martin coming. Thank you, Liz, for bringing this up. Summer's been insane and interesting, Joleen. Take Ben to that fancy restaurant on the top of the crazy hill that overlooks the city and the sports venues. It's amazing.
Yes.
Fran over here is nodding yes. What is this restaurant? And is it better than Permanente Brothers?
Well, it depends on what time of day and potentially how many beers you've had before you go. But she's definitely referring to Monterey Bay. This is a beautiful restaurant up on Mount Washington. It overlooks the city. We have hosted our Ayers Broker Network meeting there a few times, so we've had a lot of our top real estate partners there. We've packed them actually into that giant restaurant, and those are some really, really fun events where we get to recognize our real estate partners. But it's a really cool place with really good food.
It sounds amazing. Yeah, can we make a res for that? That would be awesome. The first part of Liz's question actually is really interesting though too, right? This summer has been insane. I'm gonna ask you, is it the craziest summer ever?
In a lot of ways, I would say yes. Certainly on the house of goods moving side, because this kind of perfect storm has been bonkers, right? So we have labor shortages, and we won't, belabor kind of all the reasons
Won't
for those.
belabor the labor shortages.
But so movers are struggling with that, and
Yep.
we get it, and we totally understand. But then throw in all of the supply shortages, right? Packing materials, all of the things that are needed for house of goods moving, and then container shortages, right? So especially, all of the goods that were related to the pandemic got shipped out of Asia, right? And we brought them here. So now we have lots of containers. And so, trying to get a container of household goods out of Asia can be a challenge. Finding that empty equipment that we can put on a ship to bring here has been really challenging. So those are a couple things that I think have really have caused a lot of stress. And I would just add a huge shout out to our partners. I think I've been really amazed by the just miracle after miracle, especially that our moving partners have pulled off this summer. I think, we know that they're short on crews. We know that they're short on equipment, and covering the moves that has definitely been the most challenging this summer. But there's also been some other weird stuff, like in real estate, not everybody, but so many people are out buying a home, what I talked about earlier. So it's really driven the housing market up. So on the surface, you think, well, this is great. Homes sell faster. They sell for more. Everybody's happy. Kind of true, but as a lot of people who are working in this day in and day out know, sometimes, and I think I looked at a stat the other day, in April and May, something like 65% of the homes that we sold in our programs were selling over the list price. So that's a lot. But the problem with that can be it also has to appraise. That buyer has to get a mortgage to justify that value that they want to pay. And so there are lots of moving parts that come with, right? You push down in one area, another area pops up, like in all things in life. So
well, and then now all these people are also renting now. Mm-hmm. I mean, the rental market is also crazy expensive, crazy hard to find stuff.
Yes.
We talk about how that bleeds over into corporate housing as well. I mean, have you seen that aspect impacted kind of like household goods too?
We have different challenges, but similar drivers. I think people are more apt to want to be outside of the metro areas. They want to be in the suburbs. A lot more demand for single-family homes, and we know that.
Now I want to ask you about the suburban shift thing, right? Because it was just not too many years ago. Whereas millennials are never going to buy houses, they're never going to live in the suburbs. They all just want to be walkable distances to bars all the time. That's all they can think about. They're not getting married. They're not having kids. As a millennial, and I do always bring that up just so people know. I hear these narratives all the time.
Yeah.
Are you seeing what's driving the desire for temp housing in suburbs, in your opinion?
I think one driver is safety. I also think a lot of those millennials got a puppy.
During
lockdown.
COVID puppies,
yep.
For sure.
So it's true though. We have a lot more pets. We have a lot of pet needs, and that does change what is available to them in temporary housing. So, yeah, I think it's largely, and I think people got used to having or wanting more space, and not knowing if we may go into lockdown again. Having that 500 square foot apartment right in the heart of the city so that you can walk to all the bars wasn't as valuable.
Well, it becomes a prison when you're locked down. I mean, I've talked to my friends in Chicago and New York. I mean, those cities, some of the biggest cities were hit the hardest with lockdowns. And now you're in this tiny apartment and you can't go anywhere.
Right.
And some of them even had curfews. And it feels like you're incarcerated to some degree, right? At least in the suburbs, you can walk around your neighborhood and you have the yard or whatever maybe. Right. So, there's that. And then, of course, I'm seeing also the desire for that extra bedroom, that work from home situation.
Right.
And I guess I want to ask you about work from home, remote work. Mm-hmm. The question everyone's asking is remote work going to severely negatively impact global mobility? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say we're certainly not seeing it yet. My experience, and I've been asking our customers this same question, right? What do you think? How are you feeling about it? And I would say that the overwhelming answer that I hear back is, nope, we want our people here, right? We want the talent in the location that they're doing the work. And I would say that's especially true around kind of maybe technology-based customers. We're seeing that more and more. And I think when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. You know, some of the environments and office space and the interactions that people have in those locations and headquarters and beautiful campuses that they build, that's part of being an employee of that company. And so if you're working remotely, you know, from your dining room table, then you miss out on that connection and you miss out on that experience or that part of being an employee of those organizations. And so I think that's part of it, right? They want the talent there and they want that employee experience. But I think in the past, we've always thought of relocation as this is how we get talent, right? Like subject matter expertise and abilities and capabilities out to where it needs to go. But there has always been this byproduct of, but it's also going to disseminate our culture, right? It's going to mix it in and it's going to get out there. And this person who kind of felt what it was like to kind of the water we swim in at one location knows what it's like to go and do that at another. And so that's another really important byproduct of relocation that I think companies are starting to feel. And it's the same thing that we all feel with remote work, right? We want to make sure that we preserve our cultures and that everybody really stays connected and plugged in. And I think for those reasons, relocation isn't going anywhere.
Super interesting. I'm loving this conversation. If you've got questions for Joleen, throw them in the comments. Hit that like button. Throw a little love out here to Pittsburgh. Want to get to all of that. See, Roland's got a comment here. Of course, you can need both tech and human touch. I think that we all agree in the moving part, we still face the same issues as 20 years ago: paperwork, volume, timeline issues. Tech helps us get to the answers sooner, but the human touch is needed to help, especially these days. Help the expat the best we can. Yeah, I mean, so much of the moving business is still done on paper.
Yeah, I know. So these are areas where I think we have a long way to go, right?
How much can you influence that as the relocation? I mean, you are one of the biggest buyers of household goods moving in the world. Do you feel like you can influence that, or how much can you impact change in your supply chain?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we really try to create reasonable expectations because we could work only with partners who are willing to follow all of our technology requirements to a T, right? We want automated household goods inventories, and we want, there are lots of different technology options that exist that just maybe aren't yet widely employed, I would say, by the movers. But we've strategically chosen not to do that, right? Because we want to pick our partners based on who has the best quality crews and packing and lowest claims ratio. And that's always going to be the case. And I think when it comes down to the customer that matters, which is the family in the home whose grandfather clock is getting packed and whose wedding album is going into this box, they really don't care if that inventory is handwritten or computerized. They just want it to all arrive perfectly at the destination location. So that's always going to be the driver for who we work with. It's always going to be the quality of the product or the service. And likewise, we're not in the business of strong arming anyone or telling them how to run their business, right? So we are really clear about the results that we want, and those are customer service scores. And so when we're getting those, we're happy.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense here. Let's see here. Brandy, talking about company culture is very important. So it's interesting, and I kind of alluded to this during the tour, a company who serves people organizations and how they do their own people stuff. And I always, look outward to see what trends are happening, but I also say, well, how am I reacting to these things? How am I personally on a micro level handling work from home? How am I personally handling policies and within my company around working from home and flexibility? What have you decided to do here at Ayers with your own employees around flexible work schedules? And that would follow.
Yeah, we are fully hybrid. So we gave everyone the choice, and we asked them to kind of sign up and decide if they want to be in an office anywhere from 0 to 5 days a week. And so a lot of our employees are coming in 2 or 3 days a week, but many have also chosen to stay fully remote, and nothing's permanent. So we've kind of said, hey, you could change your mind. And I think some people still have some decent concerns around COVID, and everyone has their own personal situation. A lot of people have young children who maybe can't or haven't been vaccinated, and so they just want to play it as safe as they can. And so we're trying to be as flexible as we possibly can with everyone and give everyone the option. Again, at the end of the day, we kind of stand back and say, well, what matters is, are we getting the right results, right?
Yeah.
Our customer service scores where they need to be, are our
And you
clients
feel
happy?
like you are, though. You feel
Yep.
like you're getting those results.
Yeah, we actually had better scores in 2020. We set a record. We had the best scores ever.
Well, and the craziest summer of all time, debatably, is happening right now, and the workforce is from home. A large percentage is from home. How are you like dealing with that? Because I know how we used to deal with it when it was, the old way. We'd all come in a conference room. We do like these huddles. We come together. Anytime there's crisis afoot, you come together and you're like, oh, what are we gonna do about our day? All right, this is what we're gonna do. All right, go do it. And then we come back. Like, did we do it? Oh, I think we did it. We did a little bit. Go do it again. That's how we used to do it. We kind of scrum together like that. How do you do it virtually?
Yeah, Zoom and Teams. I think I probably have the same kind of love-hate relationship with those tools as everybody.
Right.
It's I'm with you. I like the huddle in the conference room and putting our heads together. I think you can accomplish a lot virtually, and we've all been doing it. But at the same time, we're hopeful that more and more people will start to feel comfortable and things will open up more and more. I think, we're in a weird flux stage right now with the recent announcement around kind of a setback in some of the CDC requirements. So we're also really mindful that what we care about most is everyone's health. So we've kind of had a you do you mantra. And so if you want to come into the office, you can. But yeah,
So what are you hearing from your clients? And this is kind of the follow-up question I want to ask, because you have a lot of clients, so you have a really good kind of vibe on what's going on out there. What are you hearing from them as far as how they're handling remote work?
Yeah, all over the board, I would say. I would say we have more clients who are saying, nope, we're coming back. They're a little later, I would say, than we have been in some locations. So a lot are looking to come back in September, but it sounds like some of that's up in the air with this past week's announcements. A lot coming in September. But I think, their customer experience is what's been critical to us. I will say, related to kind of the results that we're getting, I do think that when it comes to customer service in 2020, especially, and maybe bleeding into 21, there was a little bit of like this halo effect. Everyone was really understanding, right? We were all going through this together. Nobody knew what to expect. And so if you were on a virtual call with someone and a couple kids ran through in the back and made some noise, like everyone was really tolerant, right? Everyone was like, that's fine. Like we're all kind of in the same boat. I don't know if that's going to last.
Right. How much grace are we really going to give?
Yeah. At some point, that might not be cute anymore. So we're just going to have to be really careful with how our customers kind of perceive that.
It's not cute. I can just imagine you sitting in a review, so it's not cute anymore. Jack Jampel, hi folks. What's up, Jack? Love Jack. Jack was here Monday. We were in person. It's amazing. Oh my gosh. Started in Jersey. Now we're out here in Pittsburgh.
You're a road warrior.
I know it's third state so far. We got two more. Going to Columbus tomorrow. We're going to talk to Sandy McKinney. We got Friday coming up. We're going to be up at Ellis Porter, Immigration, Mark Topoleski, Carrie Hatfield, and flying back to Dallas. Carrie's neck of the woods. Got to meet Carrie for the first time in person at NTRP. Oh, she's amazing. Yeah. Jack's got a little question or comment. What we are seeing in the hybrid approach will be the new norm. So we will continue to relocate.
Yeah, I think that's really consistent with what we're hearing too, is that while those folks that we're relocating may be working 2 or 3 days from home, the other 2 or 3, they want to be co-located with their team and
co-located. So that means that we are going to relocate so we can co-locate on a hybrid basis. A lot of catchphrases thrown around there. So let me ask you this now. You're talking about return to the office September, October. You're hearing from a lot of your clients. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that all this pent-up demand craziness is going to just kind of carry through the fall and maybe even the winter, which would be music to everybody's ears? What are your thoughts on that?
I think so. I mean,
when does it end?
We always monitor sort of how far out our shipping is a big indicator for us, right? The house of goods. And so we're kind of monitoring how far out those are booked. And we're definitely starting to see people book into September already. So I think so. My personal opinion is I think we're going to have an extra long peak summer season this year. It always feels long, so I don't know if I can really say that with a straight face, but I do think it's going to continue to go. And I think, the start of the school year is going to be a factor for a lot of folks. And so If they're starting remote, maybe they're going to kick that can down the road a little bit more before they move. But I do anticipate a little bit of a longer summer. We've seen the pent up demand for sure. It has not been a fire hose. I would say it's been a faucet that's like slowly opening, and we're seeing more and more of things that were on hold and in our system for a while coming through.
So is the summer kind of craziness of the summer more about demand or more about lack of supply?
I think it's lack of supply. I think the demand is consistent with previous years.
Right.
I think it's the labor shortages, supply shortages,
Right.
container shortages. Those are the things that I think are making it a little tougher to navigate.
All right, awesome. You got a top 5 for us today, Joleen. After all we've done,
We do. We
after
talked
all
about
these
some
steps,
of them, actually.
we have talked about them. We're going to do them anyway because it's not a top 3, it's a top 5. So top 5 quotes about technology. They're also up here too.
Yes.
Cheater. There we go. All right, top 5 quotes. Number 5.
Oh, there's no longer a line between the business and IT. IT is the business.
I love this.
Chatted about this a little downstairs, but the reality is we are all technology companies, whether that's our product or service or not. Technology, I think, and it's certainly in any aspect of relocation management, customers want to have technology that they work with. We have multiple customers, right? We have technology for transferees, and then we have our internal customers. And so we are all in the technology business. And so I think kind of separating those in our minds, those days are over.
Yeah, isn't it funny? We say, oh, it's a tech company. It's like, what does that mean? Well, they got a website. Well, everybody's got a website. Oh, they're, they sell a lot on the web. Oh, everybody sells. I mean, what does that even, how do you even define a technology company, right? I mean, and to your point, and as we've seen through the tour, I mean, we're all in the tech business. And if you're not in the tech business, you're probably going to be out of business.
Right. Well, and I always remind our people too, hey, we have more people in our IT group than some tech companies. So by that definition, we're a bigger tech company than a tech company. So
I mean, you even see it on like a restaurant or something. I mean, post COVID, if you don't have, like, if you're not hooked up to Grubhub and DoorDash and all, you're not going to be around in 5 years. I don't see it. So we have to really be on the technology train. All right, let's see here. Number 4.
Number 4, we talked about wishing software would rust. So this is, when it's old, we have to recognize that it's old and change it.
Is there a way to measure obsolescence in software in any sort of a quantifiable way? Is there some sort of a diagnostic program or something that we could benchmark against? Or is it just a year saying, if it was, created before 2010, you got to get rid of it? Is there a rule of thumb out there that we can use?
I don't know that there's a magic bullet, but I think there are a couple of buckets that you could evaluate any software under to see if it is obsolete or not, right? And certainly one of those would be the results that it's getting and how quickly it's getting them, right? Is it working? But then the second piece of that is the human side, right? So how do we measure the user experience? And so some of that is a lot more subjective, I would say, than objective, but that's also critical. And so measuring that user experience, and that would be anecdotal feedback as well as survey feedback. Those are things that we've done that internally a few times, kind of getting feedback about the systems that our internal teams use, because then it becomes a benchmark for a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now.
Love it. Number 3.
If things are not failing, you are not innovating. No good innovators.
I mean, this show is a perfect example of this concept right here.
Just the backwards walking, I think, was it's all been uphill from there.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think that's part of innovating, right? You can't be afraid to fail. And some of the key tenets of sort of agile development means you fail fast, right? If you're going to fail, do it now, do it up front. Don't do it at the end after you're, $1 million and 3 years into a project to discover that something's a failure. So I think making sure that you aren't afraid to fail and that you aren't afraid to pivot is critical.
As a leader, how do you create a culture where failure is okay? Because so many bosses I've worked for in the past, failure is not an option. Like, I don't know what movie they got it from, but they're all like, failure is not an option.
Yeah. I think, as long as someone presents the case of, hey, we went down this path, we don't think it's the right path for us anymore. Here's what we think is the right path. That's pretty hard to argue with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, being quiet and listening is probably the best advice I could give on that front, because nobody wants to fail.
Yeah, this is great. Let's see here. Number 2.
You can't solve a management problem with software. This is another one that I really like. And again, all my sayings sound snarky. I don't mean them to be snarky.
Maybe you're like undercover snarky.
But the reality is, sometimes people do want to solve something that should be solved with coaching or a process change, or there are a million other things with, hey, if we just put a button here, if we put a checkbox here, if we made the system stop.
If we don't allow them to do this,
Yeah,
it's
right.
like, or you could have a conversation with them
Yeah.
about not doing it.
Right. Like nothing replaces critical thinking, right? And so, yes, there are a lot of things that we can automate. And anytime we have kind of these internal conversations, one of the questions I think about is, how would we have done this 20 years ago? How did we do this 20 years ago? And if there's a really good answer to that question, that's probably the way we should keep doing it today. But if there isn't a good answer to that question, then maybe there is room for technology. But I think it's also just really good to keep in mind, people tend to think that technology is the solution to every problem. And it's not. The reality is it's not. Sometimes it's coaching, sometimes it's training, sometimes it's more human touch, more human experience, not more tech.
Well, if you give a problem to a bunch of developers, they're going to solve it with technology.
Yes.
So how do you make sure the right people are in the room?
If you're a hammer, everything's a nail.
All right, exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you make sure that you have a hammer, a screwdriver, a drill? You know what I mean? How do you make sure you have all the tools and the right people and the stakeholders in the room so that
Yep.
you're not over-engineering things?
Yeah, we have to pull people together. We have things like user advisory boards that give feedback. We have, once we're going through projects, we have change champions.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be the people who are actually using the tools, using the products, and understanding it. But yeah, you have to listen, and a tiny group can't make all the decisions.
How do you feel about predictive analytics? This is a joke. This is an inside joke. Inside joke with Jack. Inside joke. That's one of his buzzwords. He's like, you're going to tell me how many moves I'm going to have next year? Okay, great. Now what? All right, number 1.
Is companies usually get the technology they deserve. So yeah, I think you have to believe in what you're developing, believe in what you're investing in, and if you aren't going to invest in anything, my advice would be there is one thing, and that's cybersecurity, right? That's the thing that we all need. We are all keepers of some really precious data for our clients, and so I think deciding who you want to be, deciding what your strategy, what your brand is around that, and then being that, right? And if you are the customer experience organization, then that is then you're going to get the exposure and the customers that are drawn to that for sure. I think the reality is we all know, there's a lot of pressure on us all to deliver world-class technology with world-class user experiences that would mirror the experience of a Google or an Amazon. And so our work is cut out for us. But that means you have to really understand your strategy and to invest in that.
This is great. I'm loving this conversation. I could talk about this for a long time. We probably will when we go to these amazing restaurants tonight. Jamie does have a question. The big question, is Joleen going to ERC Symposium in Chicago? Steelers have a bye week right after. Perfect timing. What do you think, Joleen?
I will be there. I will be in Chicago. I'm really looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you there, Jamie. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be crazy to have everybody back together again.
And special plug here, Joleen has also agreed to speak at the IAM conference in person in Orlando. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for always being a good sport and coming out and talking.
Try.
It's really
You make
great.
it easy.
Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. I've loved the tour. It's been incredible. Joleen, I can't tell you how much I've appreciated this.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We loved having you.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you tuning in. We wouldn't have a show without you. So, again, give yourself a little round of applause in the little green round of applause button over here. Technologically, round of applause for yourself. And also, we will be live tomorrow. I will be broadcasting from EE Ward in Columbus, Ohio. We'll be talking to Sandy McKinney. We'll be talking about mentorship, a whole bunch of great mentors. And Friday, we will be up in the D with Mark Topoliski at Ellis Porter Immigration. Can't wait to see you all there. Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you again, Joleen.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it.